Welcome back to the Division 2. In this video, I want to talk to you about the loot collection, data collection that I've done. I've recently put out a video and I was gathering loot outside of the Summit game mode. I saw several comments of people complaining, oh, you're taking the piss out of another YouTuber because they only did 46 pieces of loot and now you're doing 6. Go back and do 100. So I've gone back, I've done 100. I really wish that I had other results to tell you, different ones from what I actually have. But I don't. I've done this genuinely. I sat there for, I think it took me a combined time of about 5 hours to get these 100 pieces of loot. I did it all solo, running American History Museum the entire time. I did one heroic run at the very start, and then I switched the rest up to challenging, because I would also like to point out, for those of you complaining that I'm not going to get good loot from challenging difficulty, this is not about the quality of the loot. This is not about the difference between 10% and 15% weapon damage. If I was going to test that, I wouldn't even run heroic. I would go and run legendary. This was a test of the percentages of your random attribute matching your core, and a test of the rainbow drop percentages. So I could even play normal difficulty. I'm not going to because purples are involved, and I don't think I think some of the gear pieces miss one of the attributes or something like that. But I know challenging drops a lot of high ends, doesn't actually drop purples. I don't think I had a purple at all. But at the end of this, it's not exactly the loot I want to talk to you about. I'll tell you the percentages that I come across, and I will say it's a lot better than when I did 6 pieces of gear. But that just leads me to say just how inconsistent this game is. When I say this game is inconsistent with absolutely everything, I mean even more inconsistent than my time of uploads. When I upload videos, I upload them all over the place, and I do it purposely so that it's not consistent. Because I did it for about a year or two where I uploaded specifically at 6 PM UK time, and it just caused me more stress than good, because some days I'd be struggling to think of content and it'd be like, oh, when am I going to get my next video out? I need to have one up for 6 PM. So I purposely stopped uploading at a certain time. I've made my upload times inconsistent as hell, because not only the stress and stuff, my sleeping patterns are all over the place. I'm currently recording this at 25 to 3 in the morning, and I'm wide awake. I didn't wake up till 6:30 in the afternoon, evening sort of time. But I've purposely made my upload times inconsistent because it saves me from stressing. It removes one of the stresses of the job. And this game still somehow manages to be more inconsistent than my upload times. So with the loot, this is the very first thing. On the heroic run, I had 6 pieces of gear that were not rainbow, 1 rainbow. I got 7 pieces in total. 4 of them matched the random attribute to the core, 3 of them didn't. And then it was a different story on challenging, but using all 100 pieces together, I had a total of 44 not matching the first random attribute to the core attribute. I had 56 that did. If I scroll up in my notepad, because I've kept the one from the summit as well. So that was 3 not matching on heroic, 41 not matching on challenging. So that's 44 not. That means 56% did match. It was 62 inside the summit game mode. So that's a fairly big difference, because they originally stated that they were going to do 100%. It was going to be a guaranteed matching that first random attribute to the core. And now I haven't seen, from my 2 pieces of 100 loot drop, data collections, I haven't seen over 62%. I had 62 and 56. So if they do have a rough percentage of it, then I think it's around 60%. And that is really low, considering before Title Update 11 it was 33. So they didn't even double it. I think they need to buff it up and go maybe 70, 80%, or I think 80 might actually be a sweet spot thinking about it, but it needs more testing, at least. 100% it needs more testing. But then the percentage of rainbows, and I was shocked by this as well. In the Summit game mode, out of 100 pieces of loot, I had 14 rainbows. When I did that 6 pieces of loot random data collection for a video, I had 4 rainbows out of 6 pieces of gear. This one, where I've done 100 again on American History Museum, I actually got 17 rainbows. So 83 of my drops were not rainbow rolled, 17 of them were. So it's a little bit worse over bigger sort of data collection entries, if you want to call it that. It's a little bit worse outside of the summit, but not drastically. but it means that the summit is working on different mechanics and systems as to what the outside of the summit is. And it's really, really confusing because I was barely getting any loot drops at all throughout the mission. It was so inconsistent with the amount of gear. They were mainly just dropping out of the boss area. It was either the boss or an enemy that spawns in with the boss. They were dropping me pieces of loot. I was getting some here and there, but the inconsistencies, I mean, it ranges from I got absolutely 0 drops outside of the boss drops. Like, I had nothing but the boss loot for one run, and then I'd literally go in the next run, and I would have 7 loot drops in that one run. So if there's a new player on this game, and they're trying to look for pieces of gear to put a build together, then they have the possibility of getting the bad end of the RNG, and they could go through an entire mission without having a single loot drop. I don't think that's fair at all. And the inconsistency is huge to go from 0 to 7. Another thing I'd like to point out, and I don't know how they keep doing this, but enemies are getting stuck in the doorways again, and their cursors aren't showing above their heads, so I don't know where some of the enemies are. I'm not playing with directives, so there's no fog of war. I should have the red marker on my radar at the top left, my mini-map, and I should also have their cursors when I'm in the room. A lot of enemies are not showing up. I did floor 100 of the summit again, and for some reason it was only showing me 4 cursors for the hunters instead of 5. And there was definitely 5, we ended up killing 5. It was a group of 4 players, but I was only able to see 4 of the cursors for quite a lot of the time. But the worst one is, and I only experienced this in one area of the American History Museum, as soon as you go into you go through to the Vietnam area of the mission, and you're running down that first corridor that leads you into the Vietnam area, you have a door at the very end. It's a double door, is where most of the spawns come out. In that door, rushers, the guys with the shotguns that rush out, the True Sun rushers, they are getting stuck in that door. But when they get stuck, the guys that wait further along the corridor that you've come from to get into the Vietnam area, they're getting stuck too. And I don't know if this is just on console, whether it's affecting multiple platforms. I don't have a clue, but from my experience, it was happening around 60% of the time. Every 5 runs, it was happening in 3 of them. It was incredibly frustrating because they've definitely done some stealth buffs to the NPCs. I'm getting absolutely lasered by some of the enemies. Even red bars are hitting me like a truck. So it's annoying, like trying to keep yourself alive so that you can run through the mission, grab loot and collect data and stuff for videos like this, and you're getting enemies stuck in the door. It was frustrating, and not only that, they were supposed to have fixed it a long time ago, and they just haven't, it's come back somehow. I don't know how they've managed to do it, but they have, and it's not only happening in the American History Museum. I've had it happen on DARPA Research Labs as well. It's happened several times when we were running that, trying to get a 0Fs for Pete when we were doing the project for the Ridgeway's Pride chest. I'd also like to mention just quickly, I forgot this was a note further down in the list, but when I was getting the runs that I had 0 loot drops, I don't mean pieces of gear for this data collection. I wasn't even getting mods dropping. Absolutely nothing was dropping throughout the entire mission. And then inconsistencies with the loot as well. Like, I would do several runs. I did 30 plus runs, 1 on heroic, the rest on challenging. I had 1 exotic out of all of those runs. But that's not the problem. It's sometimes I would go several runs in a row without seeing a single rainbow drop. And then I literally had 1 run, 3 consecutive pieces of gear were all rainbow rolled. I don't think there's actually an efficient system put in place for the loot in this game. I really don't. But you will see my exotic drop at the very end of this video. It's the only one I got out of all the runs, and I thought I'd just put the gameplay in the background of that run because I got the exotic. It's something nice to have a look at. But on that note, I'm going to leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff in the comments, and to all of you in the comments saying, oh, you got to do 100 pieces. There you go, I did 100. And I was honest because I would have loved to have said, oh yeah, I did the 100 pieces and there was loads more rainbows. That would have made it better for me. Yeah, I've done it again, I proved it, there's loads of rainbows, but there wasn't. I've done it genuinely, no cheating, did all of the runs. I actually had to stop, I went to sleep and I finished off, I think it was the last 23 loot drops when I woke up, because they dropped the 3-hour maintenance and I was so tired after doing about 4 hours of running the same mission over and over again. I went to sleep, woke up and then finished it off. But I've done it genuinely, 100 pieces of gear, and I had some decent results. In terms of the loot game, it was quite good results. I was getting some god rolls here and there, single god rolls, not perfect pieces of gear that have all attributes god rolled. but I was getting a couple of those here and there on challenging difficulty. The percentages on the rolls were quite high, so the loot was okay, but I think it can still be a little bit better. It just needs a little bit of fine-tuning. I don't think it would be too hard to do. Just bump up that percentage of the random attribute matching the core just a tad, like just literally a tiny little bit. And I think we will find a sweet spot for the loot. But that was just my experience from 100 drops. It's RNG. I've had it all over the place. But that's going to do it for the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for watching.